Hey folks, I'm Pete and this is Pete's Eats Videos. Today I have a real treat for you. We're going to make puff pastry. Everyone's really hesitant to make puff pastry at home. They think it's so difficult. It's not difficult at all. I'm going to show you exactly how to make it and you're going to be amazed. It's going to be fabulous. It's going to be made with real butter in your own home. You can make savory items with it. You can definitely make all kinds of pastries and appetizers. It's going to be fabulous. Let's begin. Here's what you're going to need to make the puff pastry. You're going to be amazed. Hardly anything. You need flour. Now I usually use just regular unbleached flour. They say that you should put a little bit of cake flour in. I'll do that today just to follow the rules. You're going to need butter, a pound of butter, salt. These are optional now. A little bit of lemon juice and some sugar. You don't really need these. That's it. Now this recipe, it's all about technique. All about technique. The ingredients, as I told you, minor, just a couple of ingredients, but it's all about technique. So what you're going to need in order to achieve this is a nice bowl, a good spoon. You're definitely going to need a strainer if you're going to put the lemon juice in. A really nice rolling pin. I love this French rolling pin. You can use any rolling pin you want. As a matter of fact, I've made this recipe with a bottle of wine. And also parchment paper. That's really about it. You're going to need 1 heaping tablespoon of melted butter. So I'm going to pop that in the microwave to melt it down. And you're also going to need the juice of a half lemon, which I'm going to squeeze into the flour in a second. Okay, we're going to put the flour in now. You need 3 cups of just normal unbleached flour. That's 1, 2, and 3. And also 1 cup of cake flour. Now as I said, I sometimes don't use cake flour. Actually, I often don't use cake flour. And I just put 4 cups of the regular flour in. You want about a teaspoon of salt too. You can make it saltier if you want. Let's put about a teaspoon of salt in. And a little bit of sugar. I like to put in a little bit of sugar because the sugar will help it to brown up when it's baking. So I don't know, about a half teaspoon of sugar, okay? We'll mix that up. And now we'll put in our other wet ingredients, which include lemon, water, and the melted butter. So now I'll put the wet ingredients in. I've got my half lemon. I've got a half lemon. It's really important to put this in through a sieve. You can't have any pits or pith in there. It's got to be really just the juice, nothing else. And you'll understand that once you've done this a couple of times. And there you go. You don't got to go crazy. Just get out a bit of lemon juice. And you can actually skip this step if you want. Okay. So there's my lemon juice. I'm also going to put in a good heaping tablespoon of melted butter. I put this in the microwave for a bit just to melt it, and there you go. And I also have a really good cup plus of ice cold water. Now of course no one can tell you how much water you need. It depends on the humidity in the house and everything else. So I'm going to pour most of this in, but I'm going to save a little bit back. I'm going to mix this up and see how it is. You want it a stiff dough. You definitely want it to be stiff, but you want it all to be wet. So that is getting close. Again, this recipe is all about technique. So this is a critical step, making sure that you get the right moisture. I'm going to put a little bit more moisture in there. It looks a little bit dry, so a bit more, and then I'll be back in a second once I knead this up, okay? Okay, so you can see I've got this into a nice ball. It's definitely on the thick side, but it's all wet, but it's definitely thick. It's almost like the consistency of the butter that we're going to have. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mush it out onto the counter. It's a technique that they use in the fancy bakeries just to make sure it all gets combined, everything gets combined. So I'm going to do this a couple of times. I'm just going to mush it out over and over. Okay, now that I've finished that, I'm just going to knead it for a bit so that I get a nice smooth kind of consistency. And certainly do not be worried about over kneading it. You want to really develop that elasticity in the dough. Okay, now that we've got it kneaded up, it's a nice thick consistency. As a matter of fact, it's almost important to make it about the same consistency as the butter is going to be. That butter's still a little bit hard. But what I have to do now, I have to actually put that in the fridge, and you definitely want that to rest now for about 45 minutes to an hour. So I'll put this in the fridge. Here's my pound of butter. It's been out of the fridge for a bit. It's not rock hard, but it's still, you know, very solid. And what I need to do is I need to make this into a nice rectangular shape, about 3/8 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch thick. This takes a bit of beating. You can use a meat tenderizer. I just use my rolling pin, and you'll see how I do this. But it is very important to make the corners square. Really important that you make the corners square. So here I go, I'll show you how I do it. It's between two pieces of parchment paper, not wax paper. Parchment paper can really take the beating. There you go, I've got a nice rectangular piece with square corners. It's good to go. Okay, now my dough has rested for a good 45 minutes to an hour, and I'm gonna put down a really healthy amount of flour on the work surface. So a really good amount, don't be shy with the flour. I'm gonna put down my dough, which has been resting. I'm gonna bring it out of the plastic bag I had it in. Okay, and now I'm gonna put a little bit of flour on top of that. And what I want to do is I want to roll this out to it's about the same thickness as the butter, but I want it almost like star-shaped, and I want it thinner on the sides and thicker in the middle. Okay, so sort of like this shape. You can see I'm leaving the center a little bit thicker, and I'm making it kind of star-shaped. And the idea is it's going to be an envelope that I'm going to put the butter in the center, and we're going to close the envelope with the butter in the center, okay? So I'm just going to get rid of this excess flour. So now I'm going to take my butter, and I'm going to put my butter rectangle right there, right on top of it. And now I'm going to package it up, okay? Okay, so now I've got a nice package of butter in the center, and you can see it's completely covered. The butter's completely covered, and I have a nice rectangle. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make sure I've got lots of flour underneath the package. I'm going to nice and gently roll it out. Until it's about half the original thickness. There we go. Okay. And now I'm going to fold it over. So I'm going to fold the bottom up, get rid of all that excess flour in there, and the top over. Okay. And so now I've got another package. I'm going to bring all this flour underneath so it's really generously floured. I'm going to roll this up now. And you can think about that butter in between these layers and how many times it's being folded over and how many layers of butter. The French word for puff pastry, I believe, is 1,000,000 layers. And I'm sure we'll be close to that when we're done. Again, this is not quite perfect, but I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. And there you go. Now, what do? I put it back in the fridge. I let it rest for an hour, and I do 2 more rolls. So I have to do that twice more. Okay, that's been a good hour, and now I'm ready to do my next 2 rolls. We've let that rest. So again, I put it on a nice bed, of flour. I'm just going to nicely and gently get that rolled out. And again, I'm trying to keep it as rectangular as possible. And now I'm going to just fold it over, bottom half up, just kind of like like you do an envelope. Bottom half up, get rid of all that flour. Oh, I ripped it a bit there, you can see. You don't want to do that. And that up. And away I go. I'm going to roll it out again. Again, first I'm just going to sort of squeeze it out a bit. Now I'll roll it. Squeeze it out a bit this way. Again, if you run into any trouble, just stop and refrigerate. Okay, fold it over like an envelope. Get rid of that flour. Fold it over again. And now I'm going to chill it for another 45 minutes to an hour. Okay, I'm going to roll this out for the third set of times. So it's been 2, 2, and then this will be 2. And then she'll be ready to go. You see, after it's been chilled, it really rolls out nicely. Again, I'm going to roll it out to just under ½ an inch. You can see it's starting to tear a bit there. And here, it's not too bad. Worry too much about that. Just always trying to keep it as square as possible. Okay, I'll square it up nice, and then I'll make one last fold, a letter fold. One, get rid of all that extra flour. Fold that over. And the final roll, and then it will be ready to be used. So this is my final roll and fold, each time twice. Twice and chill, twice and chill, twice and chill. Okay, I'm going to fold it over and chill it for 1 more hour, and then it's ready for use. And then we can make whatever we want from it. And there you go. So here it is. Here's the final product. Beautiful puff pastry made with butter, ready to be rolled out into any kind of dessert or savory dish you want. It's really magnificent. When you bake this in the oven, you'll see how it really fluffs up, and it's absolutely delicious. It's like nothing you can buy in the store. So be creative, go for it, don't be afraid. It's easy to make. Puff pastry, enjoy.